thanks for stopping into another episode of the Neighborhood Kitchen. As you can see, today's St. Patty's Day, and I got some treats for you guys. So, today I'm going to show you how to make that traditional St. Patrick's Day dish, corned beef and cabbage, but we're going to do it my way, the Tommy way. But before we get today's episode started, let's start off with a libation, shall we? I mean, after all, it is St. Patrick's Day, and there is no other beverage that you should start your St. Patty's Day off than with that wonderful elixir of life, Jameson's. So as you can see, I got about 3 different varieties here. Yeah, there's more than one out there. So these are my 3 top favorites. I have original, I have stout, and I have cold brew. So I'm going to do a little flight for you, and I'm going to give you a little rundown on all 3 of them. So first we're going to start with the stout edition, okay? It's colored just like regular Jameson's. It's Jameson's that's been matured in casks that originally had Irish stout like Guinness or something in it. So, cilantro. You get that caramely taste of the stout, those dark chocolate notes. Now, to cleanse the palate, we'll go with a little original Jameson's. Hey, man, this is all COVID protection. So, cilantro again. Woohoo! My Irish accent is going to come back soon. Oh, there it is, Lord and behold. Okay, and finally, to almost like a little dessert, we're going to do the Jameson's cold brew. Now, if you've seen my other show, the Friday wrap-up, you've seen this concoction featured quite a bit. This is one of my favorite versions of Jameson's. It's Jameson's that's brewed with coffee. So as you can see, it's a nice dark caramely tone to it. So there you go. One more time, cilantro again. Woo! Okay, now that I'm pickled, let's talk to you about today's menu. So, first off, like I said, I'm going to show you my version of corned beef and cabbage. Typically, when you think of corned beef and cabbage, it's all like a big one-pot boil type of thing. They put the corned beef in there, they put the cabbage in there, they put a couple of potatoes in there, and they boil the fuck out of it. And, yeah, it's good, but it's not. Who the hell wants to eat boiled cabbage, right? So, my version is a little different. I don't boil the cabbage. I'm going to show you my take on a traditional Irish cabbage and potato dish called Colcannon. But before we get there, let's talk corned beef. Now, corned beef is one of my favorite things in the world. I love this stuff. I seldomly order it out in the Jewish deli or out at a bar or a restaurant because nobody makes it as good as I do. Now, I'm going to show you guys how to make it as good as me. And trust me when I tell you, when you do this, you'll never, ever, ever, ever eat corned beef anywhere else. So first you want to start off with a nice point cut brisket, okay? Sometimes it's called a thick cut. It's the fattier version. You see it's got that nice thick fat cap on it, okay? Do not trim that off, at least not yet, okay? I prefer this version as opposed to the flat cut because the flat cut's a little leaner. So when you're cooking it and you're boiling it in your liquid, the flat cut tends to get a little dry. This stays nice and moist and just beautiful. That's why we don't trim the fat off just yet, okay? You trim it off when you take it out of the braising liquid. Now, you're going to also need a couple of accoutrements. You're going to need about 4 or 5 onions. I get like, you know, a bag of those soup onions, like here, like something like this here. Guy called these soup onions. You know, you go to the supermarket, you find a bag of onions like that for like $1.50, okay? They're basically only good to make stock or, you know, cooking liquids like this. It's not something I would cut up and put in a recipe or a dish or anything like that because it's a little too oniony. But for cooking and braising liquids, it's perfect, okay? So you want about 4 or 5 of those quartered, about 5 or 6 cloves of garlic smashed, and then we're going to use some pickling spice. So take a look at this. I'm going to show you guys. This is like arts and crafts too. So first we're going to start off with some peppercorns, whole peppercorns, and some of this McCormick's pickling spice, okay? So what you do is you use about 2 tablespoons of pickling spice and about 1 tablespoon of peppercorn, and you're going to make what's called a bouquet garni. Nice big French cooking word. Don't freak the fuck out on me now, okay? Don't go, oh my God, he went French. No, okay? A bouquet garni is simply a spice bag. You take you take your little, your spices, you put them in a cheesecloth like this, you tie it up. Here, I'll show you real quick how to do that. So, you see, I got my spices in my cheesecloth here. I got 2 tablespoons again of pickling spice, tablespoon of peppercorns. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this up, see? It's not rocket science. Just make sure it's even because you don't want the spices to come out. That's the whole point of this. You're going to give it a little twist. See, isn't that cute? It's like a little present. You take your butcher's twine or your kitchen twine, whatever the hell you want to call it, okay? And we're just going to tie a little knot. That's it. That's all she wrote, all right? The reason you do this is because you can just pull this bag out when you're done cooking and you don't have to, like, pick the spices off the meat because that's a pain in the ass. You don't want to eat the spice, you know, you don't want to eat the pickling spice. You just want it to flavor your cooking liquid. All right? And that's it. And hey, listen, if the string is long like that, that's okay. You can tie it to the end of the pot. That's like a tea bag. All right? So, speaking of pots, let's go over to the stove and check out what we got going on over there. Okay, so I got my briskets down in a big stock pot. Now, I'm doing about, you know, I think I got about 4 or 5 briskets in here. I think about 20 pounds of brisket. Now, this is going to cook down a lot. So if you think you need about, you know, 10 pounds of brisket, get 20. If you think you need about 4 pounds of brisket, get 8, okay? A corned beef is basically a pickled brisket. So when you take this out of its packaging, first off, you want to rinse it in cold water. You want to get some of that pickling liquid off, okay? Like I said, don't trim the fat. Put it down in your stock pot. And to that, we're going to add the 4 or 5 quartered, I got about 5 quartered onions in here and about 6 cloves of garlic. So just dump those right down on top, okay? Here's the part where we drunkify this. We're going to use a little Killian's Irish Red, okay? Oh, it's just funny, you know, Irish beer. Now, typically, you could use any kind of beer you like, all right? You could use a Stout, you could use a Black and Tan, a Porter, any kind of Irish Red. I go with Killian's because that was my dad's favorite, and he liked this, so what the hell. So we're going to do about 8 beers, okay? About 6 to 8 beers. You want to cover it halfway in the beer, all right? I mean, listen, you never cook with anything you ain't going to drink, right? So, this is where the drunkifying comes from. We're going to... Could you imagine? I mean, this is... Can you... I mean, if you're a brisket and you're just sitting there and just someone starts pouring beer over you, oh my goodness. I mean, this is a fine way to shower, it is indeed. Okay? So we got our Killians in here. Let me pop this one open. Okay. All right. All right, and a little bit for the chef. Hey, how's salud, huh? That's some good beer. Now we're going to cover the rest with H2O. Okay? Just a little bit of water. All right? You want to cover the whole thing with water. Okay, we're going to take our spice bags and we're going to just drop those right in here on top. Now, you want to bring this up to a boil, okay? Then you want to knock the heat down to low. You're going to let it simmer for about 2.5 hours. All right, just covered low and slow. Let it simmer 2.5 hours. Once it's done simmering, you're going to turn the heat off, and then you want to let this just sit in the cooking liquid for about 15 minutes, okay? Just let it steep, let it rest, okay? And then you can dig it out, strain all this out here, dig out the briskets, and just slice them up. I'm going to show you how to do that, okay? So I'm gonna turn my heat on. I mean, this is St. Patty's Day, right? I mean, if we're going to drunkify something, let's drunkify it. Let's put a little of this Jameson Stout right in there, okay? Right over the top. Shh, don't tell nobody. They'll all be doing it. The corned beef is in there running wild right now. While this is simmering, I'm going to show you how to do that kicked up Colcannon. Okay, so I had my corned beef simmering for about 2.5 hours. It's now resting, so I'm going to let it rest for 15 minutes. So let me talk to you about the next component of our meal, my take on Colcannon. Now, Colcannon is a traditional Irish dish that's served in Ireland on St. Patrick's Day. It's basically mashed potatoes with cabbage, okay? Which It's tasty, but doesn't look too appetizing. So I decided to, put my little spin on it. So cabbage, as you know, when you boil it, it lets all the sulfides out, and it smells like farts. So we don't need that. But when you saute cabbage, it takes on a whole different flavor profile. And I kind of borrowed this a little bit from a Polish dish called halushki, which is a show for another day. So first off, what we're going to start with, like all good things in life, a pound of bacon. So I took some thick cut bacon, cut it up, and this is going to be the base to our dish. To that, we're going to add 1 whole Vidalia onion that I sliced up, okay? A head of cabbage that I chopped, that I shredded. And here's the thing, instead of mashed potatoes, I'm going to use these little home fried potatoes, these little like Brabant style potatoes. Listen, you can sit there and dice potatoes and blanch them and do all of that if you want. But, this is one of those things where you can go to the supermarket, you can buy those like home fried potatoes. They're like little cubes in the freezer section. Works just as fine. You pop them right out of the freezer and they're good to go. So instead of the mashed potatoes, I'm sauteing the cabbage with the onion, bacon, potatoes. Going to combine all of that, and it's going to be friggin' lights out. So let's go over to the stove and get this thing to put together. So I got my cast iron skillet getting nice and hot on the stove. Now listen, if you don't have a cast iron skillet, don't freak out. Just get a nice big deep skillet like this, because the cabbage is going to take up a lot of room. But seriously though, if you don't have a cast iron skillet, you should seriously consider investing in one. These are probably one of the best kitchen tools you could have. I mean, this thing is a workhorse. It does everything. So while this is getting hot, I'm going to take my bacon and I'm going to put it down in here, and I'm going to let this render out, okay? Because our pork fat is going to basically be the base for this dish. We're going to saute the onions in them once this is rendered out nicely, okay? So, okay. So that's the first component. Once this is all rendered out, we're going to remove the bacon, we're going to drain it, and then I'm going to start on the next part, which is the onions. Okay, so the bacon's rendered out. I got it off to the side here. I drained about a cup of the fat out of the pan. I left it you want about a quarter cup of pork fat in this, okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to just let these onions hang out in here and caramelize. I got the heat kind of low, like medium low. You don't want to season this just yet, all right? Because you want them to, like I said, caramelize. If you hit this with salt right now, it'll sweat them out, it'll release their natural water, and it'll stop the caramelization processes. That's not what we want. So we want to keep the heat low, and you want to just kind of let these onions hang out. Just go in there, break them up a little bit, so that they caramelize, so that their natural sugars will caramelize. And when it starts to get a little caramely looking, then you can season it a little bit before you hit it with the cabbage. Okay? So this is going to take a few minutes, about 4 or 5 minutes for these to caramelize the way I want them to. And then once that happens, we can add back the cabbage. We can add the cabbage in, start to saute it, add back the bacon, and get this dish ready to go. In the meantime, while my onions are caramelizing, what I have is a pan here behind it, which I'm going to heat it up. Okay? Matter of fact, maybe we'll do... Yeah, I'm just going to move this pan over here, right? Okay, so I'm going to get this other secondary pan. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see, I'll move the camera a little bit. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to get this secondary pan heated up, and I'm going to put a little vegetable oil in it. And this is the pan I'm going to use to fry my potatoes. I'm not going to fry the potatoes in the same pan as the onions and cabbage, because what will happen is they'll never get crispy. We want them to get crispy. Okay, so once they're crisped up, we're going to drain them, and then we're going to add that at the last minute to our Colcannon mixture and toss it all together. So our pan is nice and hot. I got my oil in it. So that's what you want to see. You want to see that little sheen, that little ripple. And what you're going to do is you're going to test it out, okay? Now be careful. These are frozen, so they're going to pop a little bit when you add them in. But just... See, this potato is going to be the test. When this starts to bubble and pop, it's going to start to talk. It's going to sizzle. It's going to, you'll hear it. It'll start telling you, okay, I want some French. That's when you add the rest of them into the pool. Okay? Now the thing with frying, okay, there's nothing wrong with frying, but if you're going to fry, fry right. You want your oil to be nice and hot, about 325, 350, somewhere around there. Like I said, you see how this is starting to ripple and bubble? I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just going to pull it off the heat for a second. See that? That's what you want to see, okay? Once that starts to bubble like that, we can add the rest of our potatoes in. All right? We're just going to give it a little toss. Just be careful, that oil's hot. All right? So this is going to start to fry. Let me get a little spoon here. Just kick that around. You want your oil fairly hot. The thing with frying, and you want that oil to... The reason you want your oil so hot is because you want it to just sear the potatoes right when they go in. Okay, you don't want that to just, because what will end up happening is the potatoes will absorb the oil and they'll get greasy, and nobody wants greasy potatoes. Alright, so our potatoes are going to get nice and crispy. Our onions are caramelizing nicely. Man, you should smell it in here between the corned beef, the bacon, and the onions. Whew. Lord Almighty, I'm in heaven. Oh, it's going to be a fine night this evening, it is indeed. Okay, we'll let our potatoes crisp. We're going to let our onions continue caramelizing. Man, this dish is going to be lights out. You see our onions are getting nice and caramelized. I mean, look at this. Look at this beautiful color on these. Okay, this is what you want. See, now if you salted them, they would have never gotten to this point. When it comes to caramelizing onions, you want it low and slow. It's a patience thing. Okay, so we're going to let this go a little bit more. Potatoes are starting to get some color on it. Okay, and then we're going to put this whole thing together. So now we're ready for our cabbage. So before I add the cabbage, I'm just going to go in real quick and just hit this with a little tiny pinch of salt. Okay, that'll actually complement the sweetness of the onions. See, when they get this stage, man, it's like candy. Then get some fresh cracked black pepper in there. Okay, now we're going to add our cabbage. So we're just going to put this whole thing in there. I know this looks like a lot, but it's actually going to cook down pretty quick. Okay, we're going to just go in there and give it a little toss. All right, there we go. All right, beautiful. Okay, so we got our cabbage. And cabbage needs some love. So we're going to hit the cabbage with a little pinch of salt. Okay, don't be bashful. All right. Lots of cracked pepper. You can't hear it right now, but this cabbage is singing a nice Irish lullaby. Okay, it's getting happy in here. Now listen, if you wanted to make this low carb, you don't have to add the potatoes. You could do this without potatoes. You could do it. You could substitute the potatoes with cauliflower. But, you know, cauliflower is a cruciferous vegetable. Cabbage is a cruciferous vegetable. I feel like if you combine the two of them in a dish together with some onions, you got to turn your ass into Mount Vesuvius. I mean, you'll be able to play Danny Boy, you know, with your backside. So, I mean, if you're feeling a little daring, be my guest. But me, I think it's fine just like this. I mean, you know, I'm not a big carb guy during the week, as you know, but it's St. Patty's Day. I mean, we got beer, we're making sandwiches. What's a few potatoes among friends, right? So you spend a little extra time on the treadmill tomorrow. No big deal. So I'm going to toss these onions with my cabbage, get the cabbage sauteed nice. Yeah, like I said, give it a couple minutes, this will cook down. And once this is all nice and cooked down, and gets happy with the onions in here, then I'm going to add my potatoes and bacon back, and then we're going to plate this whole thing up. Man, it's going to be St. Patty's Day. It's going to be wild up in here. So just stick with the neighborhood kitchen, because it's all about St. Patrick's. Cabbage is cooking down nice. Look at these potatoes, how beautiful they're looking. See, they're almost about done. I like my potatoes crispy. I mean, you could probably take them out right about now. I'm just going to give that another 30, 40 seconds, okay? And then I'm going to take them out and drain them and season, okay? Potatoes, anything, whenever you're frying, the best time to season it is right when it comes out of the oil, because it'll just suck up anything you season it with, whether it be salt and pepper, a little Old Bay seasoning, a little garlic powder, whatever, okay? So We're almost at the finish line. Okay, our Colcannon's ready to go here. So I just tasted it, adjusted the seasonings, needed a little bit more salt. So now I'm going to add my bacon first. Okay. Oh yeah, peasant food. Okay. So you add your bacon back, and the reason I take it out, okay, and then add it back is because I want the bacon to stay crispy. Same with the potatoes. Okay. So I got my bacon in there, right? Now, look at how beautiful these potatoes came out. I just seasoned them real simple, salt and black pepper. Okay, just drained them off. And now we're going to add our potatoes back in here. And again, we want it to stay crispy. I mean, look at this crisp here. Right, listen. Right? That's how you do potatoes. I mean, come on. Come on. How beautiful does this look? Now we're just going to toss it together. I'll turn the heat off. This one escaped. Got an escapee. I mean, come on. Does that not look happy? Could you imagine? Who boils potatoes and cabbage when you could saute it in bacon? All right, now let's go carve that brisket. Okay, so this is like one of the 22 briskets that I just made. As you can see, they cooked down a lot, right? So this was about maybe almost 5 pounds. It probably cooked down to about 3.5. See, it does cook down a lot. Like this is like enough for like one sandwich, like for me. So let's carve this up, all right? So we get our carving knife. Now, what you want to do with this is you want to carve against the grain. You don't want to carve with the grain. So if you can see this, you see the grain here? If you start cutting this like this, okay, it's gonna get stringy. I'm sorry, this is against the grain. If you carve it this way, here's the grain. Okay, if you carve it this way, it's gonna get stringy. If you carve it like this, it stays together. Okay, now let's give this a little taste, huh? Oh yeah, bud. Oh yeah. That's gonna be lights out. See, a lot of the fat cooked out of it, and it's in the cooking liquid. So that's why we do that, okay? Okay? So you gotta find the grain and just cut with the grain. I mean against it. Sorry, getting too excited with myself. You wanna carve against the grain. Okay, so you want little fillets, little slices like that, and as you go further, they get bigger. Carve them as thick or as thin as you like. I don't like them too thin. I don't know, everybody likes thin sliced corned beef. I like to be able to bite into it, you know? Okay, so look at that. I mean, look at how beautiful that brisket looks, huh? All right, so we're gonna get this all sliced up, and we're gonna plate this all up. I'm gonna make one hell of a sandwich. Now we got our brisket sliced up. I mean, look at that. Does that not look, I mean, that's fucking sexy as hell, right? Come on. And you see that beautiful deep red color? When you make corned beef in just water, it's almost like pink. The reason it's got that nice dark rich color is because of the Killians. All right, so what you wanna do is you wanna get yourself some good quality rye bread, okay? This is how I like to do this. I'm gonna show you how I like to get down here. I'm just gonna turn this out of the way. And you see these ends here? You save that. You shred that up, you make corned beef hash with that. Okay, so we're gonna get a little bit of mustard down. Okay? Just a little tiny bit. It's gonna hold our corned beef in place here. Okay? And you want some good New York style deli mustard. None of that yellow crap. Okay, I mean, I know if you're not in New York, I mean, like Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Jersey, they got that. Don't worry, we're going to put more mustard on this. I just want a little bit just to seal the bread. Okay, so then we're going to go in there and we're going to get some of these nice pieces of corned beef. Okay, look at that. I mean, come on. I can hear your mouths watering. I can hear them watering. Look at that. Huh? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I dare any New York deli to try and come close to this. I don't know, what do you think? Another piece? I mean, let's go big. It's St. Paddy's Day. I got a big mouth. I can handle it. All right, so. Okay. Now, we're going for the kill. Okay, we get some. Okay. And we're going to do a little like this here. All right. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah, look at this. Crust to crust. It's a must. All right. Then we're gonna put the cap on this thing. All right, let's get a knife and cut this baby in half. Oh wait, we ain't done. We ain't done. I didn't forget about that Colcannon. Sometimes I don't know what I get more excited about. The corned beef or the Colcannon. Okay. There we go. There we go. Look at that. I mean, come on. Huh? Huh? All right. So I'm going to plate my Colcannon. I'm going to get myself a cold one, and I'm going to sit down, and we're going to munch, and we're going to get the St. Patty's Day kicked off. Okay, take a look at that. Huh? How about that for a close-up? Well, I got my Colcannon and my corned beef sandwich, and nothing better to wash it down with than a poisonous slancha. Oh, yeah, baby. All right, first, I got to do it. I got to try this Colcannon. We got to get everything on the fork here. A little cabbage, a little onion, potato, bacon. Here we go. Wow. Sometimes I even impress myself. Yo. That's lights out. It's lights out. It's like comfort food. It's like a hug inside. Now, look at this bad boy. That corned beef is so tender, so flavorful. You don't even need to chew it. It just melts in your mouth. It's delicious. My man Heavy would inhale this plate like that. So, from the neighborhood kitchen to your kitchen, happy St. Patty's Day. And before I leave you with this Irish toast. May the winds always be at your back, and may you sail a gentle sea, and may it always be the other lads that says this drink's on me. Sláinte. And I'll see you when I see you.